The story starts with our protagonist facing the Demon King. The Demon King attacks, but the man pushes right through it. He tells him to go all out. They both use their full power. After the battle they are drained and they end up killing each other. Moving to the present, we come across our pretty enthusiastic loser protagonist. He introduces himself to everyone. He is called Blade. He is very happy to make new friends out of nowhere. A busybody tells Blade to stay in order and not cause a commotion. She is the academy's top student. He eagerly introduces himself. She is called Ernest. She is angry how they can enroll someone with such a weak resolve into the academy. Everyone around is shocked. This loser is such an airhead. He asks her to guide him to the headmaster's office. After entering the office, Ernest starts acting weird. She warns Blade he is the king and he should behave. The king laughs and tells him he heard a lot about her from the previous headmaster and he will temporarily take his place. Hearing this, Ernest starts blabbering nonsense. He tells her to leave as he has to talk to Blade. She is very pissed why Blade got his attention. After she leaves, Blade starts speaking informally with the king. He tells him what the hell is he doing here. The king says he wants Blade to get his hero powers back, and the king wants to train more of them in the future. Blade says he already killed the Demon King, so there's no need for heroes. The king is overly excited about this. Ernest is supervising the advanced class. Blade enters and she tells him what is he doing here. After showing the proof enrollment, she thinks he bribed someone, because how can someone directly enter the advanced class? Blade is over enthusiastically introducing himself to everyone. What a loser. Ernest is angry, so Blade pats her head. She attacks him with her sword, but he dodges it. A cute girl tells them to assemble. Blade introduces himself continuously, but she doesn't reply to him. She is called Sophie. Ernest tells the instructor she wants to test Blade's abilities. The instructor is scared and agrees. She tells Blade to hit an enchanted armor and must cut through it. If he can't, she will kick him out. Ernest says that the normal class is 3 times stronger than the regular classes. Blade unleash a bit of his powers. His power is from the dragon origin. Upon releasing his aura and attacking the target, everyone in the class is severely injured. Ernest tells him what is he, and Blade says he is an ordinary person. During the lunch break, Ernest is having her lunch. Blade joins her and everyone is shocked. Blade tells him if she is being bullied by others. In reality, Ernest says everyone is scared of her. Blade takes a bite of his food and thinks it's delicious as he gobble up the food. Ernest apologizes to him for underestimating him. Blade says it's okay since they are friends. Hearing this, she turns red. At night, Ernest is rolling around in joy since she made a friend. Basically, she is a loner. Suddenly her sword starts shaking. In a flashback, we see young Ernest touching a cursed sword and it tells her to kill every living being. She barely manages to control it. The next day she is having an intense battle with another guy, but she beat him up with a single strike. She almost tried to kill him but somehow manages to stop. She then challenges Sophie, our robotic girl. They both have a pretty intense battle with heavy exchange of moves. Ernest defeats her with the help of her sword. She next challenges Blade. He thinks something is wrong with her. Suddenly Ernest faints trying to control the sword. Blade takes her to the infirmary and the doctor says she is probably cursed. Ernest wakes up and tells him if she did something horrible. She wants to leave but the doctor won't allow it. Blade says he will keep an eye on her. Blade supports her, but when she notices others watching her, she starts walking by herself. At noon, Blade breaks through the Empire's confidential room and enters the main chamber and finds all information related to Ernest's demon sword Asmodeus. Later that day, he tells her to meet him in the ground and tells her he is interested in her. Hearing this, she gets shy. He tells her he knows about her sword. She tells him when she was 6 years old she touched this cursed sword and it tried to take over her, but she has been resisting it till this day. Ernest says the only way she can escape is by getting acknowledged by the sword, but she might turn into a demon. Blade says he will take responsibility and cut it down. Ernest trusts Blade. At night she summons Asmodeus and she tells him to surrender himself to her. He says he is the god of destruction and they start fighting among themselves. While Asmodeus tries to attack Blade, he punches it to the ground. She has a gruesome fight all naked and manages to win it, not showing it. The next day the ambience around Ernest changed and everyone thinks she is more approachable. During class time, Blade fights his classmates without breaking a sweat. Ernest tells him to at least draw his sword to show respect. He thinks something is different about her. He thinks it through but he has no idea this loser is a brick. Ernest is disappointed and tells Blade to look after Sophie since she voluntarily told her name to him, which happened for the first time. Blade tries to talk with her and says that he wants to help her. She says all she can use is her fist, so Blade says he will teach her swordsmanship, but the moment they were about to start, the class ends. The next day Blade teaches her how to hold a sword and demonstrates her how to use aura by cutting an armor. By evening Sophie is already able to cut them like butter. She tells Blade if she can beat Ernest now, but Blade is not sure about it. She pins down Blade in a mount position and tells him she wants him to do something else tomorrow. The next day Basic Loser meets up with the king. He tells Blade if he has made any friends. Blade says he made many and his most recent one is Sophie. The king says she is incomplete and she was created to surpass him. She is one of the test subject from the Artificial Hero Project with Forbidden Technique. A certain organization did this. Sophie is the 12th test subject. Hearing this, Blade is trying hard to control his anger. He gets angry but the king tells him that he got rid of the organization and took her in and now she is free. Hearing this he runs out. Blade blames himself for all this as he was the hero and asked the doctor what is a normal behavior for people of his age, but she is weird herself. He asks all his friends one by one what it means to be normal. Then he goes to Ernest and asks her what a date is. She explains to him in a shy manner thinking it's for her, but Blade runs away. He then barges into the dressing room and tells Sophie to go on a date. Ernest and her friends enjoy desserts and Ernest thinks it's best for them to help Blade out. Blade has made a lot of preparations for the date. Sophie says they need to start mobilizing. The following hours they both have a lot of fun doing various activities as the girls follow them. They mess up the arcade machine but the girls take care of it. Then they both share a coconut drink but Blade gets overly shy. While Ernest is getting jealous eating her desserts, they have already left out of regret. She is gobbling up bowls of it. At night Sophie asks him why he went out of his way to do this. Blade says it's because she is his friend. Hearing this she says friends don't hide anything, so she tells him that she is an artificial hero. She showcases her powers like manipulating the laws of physics, manipulating gravity, and she can even stop time itself, but she can only maintain this for 10 seconds. She is the 12th clone of a woman called Sophie and she is its sole success. Blade says he will not keep secrets from her. He tells her he is the great hero but his powers are gone. Sophie thought she felt something familiar to him. Blade apologizes to her because she suffered. Blade is very sad because of him. She suffered so much and these powers became a curse to him as he couldn't save all of them, but Sophie tells Blade that after being free she roamed around multiple places to find her true identity and she is very happy that she was created to be an artificial hero. Sophie and Blade decide to keep their secrets to themselves. Blade is enjoying his lunch with friends when he gets food on his face. Sophie wipes it for him. Seeing this, Ernest gets jealous. More of his friends joins them as they have been promoted to the advanced class and now they can wear casual clothes. They ask Blade how they look and like a loser he is confused, but our blonde simp called Leonard starts flattering them. Ernest tells Blade that the king has bought in a magical beast but Blade doesn't care and enjoys his food. Suddenly the building starts shaking. Sophie thinks something is wrong. A monster breaks through the building and it's a dragon. The soldiers are trying their best to stop it. Blade rushes towards it with food in his hand. He jumps and knocks it with a single punch. He then feeds the food to the dragon and it probably likes it. Everyone in the class is shocked but Blade says he is an ordinary student. The dragon transforms into a cute little girl and starts calling Blade her parents sticking onto him. Blade asks where the dragon is. Sophie says the dragon has turned into a girl, shocking Blade. The dragon pins him down and tells him to play with him. At night he washes her and names her Q. Ernest enters the bathroom and thinks he is a pervert. The next day as Blade was feeding Q, Claire tries to feed her but she says she doesn't want weak humans to feed her and wants only Blade to feed her. Q tells him as his parent he should only focus on her and says all he does is stare at mature women. Hearing this they all decide to punish Blade. He has been isolated from training. Q comes to the training ground and Blade calls her. She tries to show off while he was talking to others. Q gets mad and leaves. How sensitive. In the evening she sees others playing. They ask Q if she wants to be friends with them, but she says they are too weak and runs bumping into Blade. At night Ernest visits Blade. Ernest tells him that he has to stop pretending to be her parent someday. Blade tells her that she is obsessed with him since she found someone stronger than her and if he stops she might be completely alone. Ernest thinks Blade is right and calls Sophie and she agrees with Ernest. After going back to his room, Q is not there. Blade climbs to the roof to meet her. She says looking at the moon calms her down. According to her the big one is the parent, the smaller one is the child. Blade tells her if she wants to make friends, but Q says as dragons they can only make friends with someone stronger than them. The next day Blade meets with the king. He explains that he was playing with Q when she got angry and left towards the cafeteria. Blade thinks he is irresponsible. In the evening he reaches his dorm where he sees Q playing with dolls and she named them after Blade's classmates. This scene actually made me sad. She is so alone and continues playing with them. When he sees her greeting the dolls calling them her friends, this was deep. Blade leaves the room disheartened. He ignores Ernest and starts bumping his head on the wall. Ernest says what's wrong with him. Blade tells Ernest that Q is in need of friends but can't make one because of her nature. Ernest says to trust her and she will fix everything. The next day they go to the lower grade classes and tell them to fight with Q. They both kneel down and tell them to help them. Everyone in the advanced class joins them and kneel down wanting their help, so they have no choice but to accept it. The next day they prepare a duel between Q and the students. The king tells them that although they are a group in the eyes of a dragon they are considered weak. Blade tells Q to go all out and everyone is ready for the showdown. As the battle starts, the pathetic side characters start running when Q gets attacked by Ernest and she tells everyone to maintain the formation. Surprisingly, they actually get into a formation and soon enough the battle gets intense, and under Ernest's command they manage to overwhelm her and the king is impressed, but Q instantly breaks the formation and ordinary attacks don't work on her. Many of them are injured as she starts beating them. Ernest together with Sophie uses their powers to damage Q. According to the king they partly damaged her, but Blade says she lost awareness of her surrounding and she falls into a pitfall made by Leonard. Asmodeus tells Ernest that she is overusing him and together they launch a barrage of attacks on Q. Ernest manages to hurt her and Sophie uses her hero powers to seriously injure her. Asmodeus is all drained but Ernest forces it and unleash great power. She borrows powers from her classmates, literally copied it from the Beyblade franchise. She screams like Vegeta and launches her Hakai, defeating our cute dragon. She starts crying for losing to them and Blade might abandon her for being weak, but he consoles her and gives a cringe speech, and under the pressure of Blade she asks them to be her friends. Moving on to the king, he has bought a special device called virtual reality made from magic called science and he is eager for its completion. During lunchtime Claire is happy to feed Q and she has no way to say no. Soon enough they become the regular cringe characters of this anime. Moving on to Ernest, she has turned into a ball. We will call her Half Potato for the time being. Our loser protagonist, after a lot of thought, figures out she has turned fat and hearing this she runs away. In the evening Q is consoling him and he is taking it hard on him. His friends says Half Potato might break her friendship with him. Hearing this out, Simp is acting like any regular trash. The whole party decides to visit her and since she doesn't respond they break in. Inside the dark room Half Potato is doing something and Q joins her. After turning on the lights she is still stuffing in desserts. After the fight she is unable to control her hunger no matter what. Now she is a full potato. Blade tries to leave after hearing they are still friends, but the girls tell this loser to say something nice, but he messes it up. Leonard shows it how it's done but he insults her, and then comes our loser. This time he does good and they are ready to help her. The next day our full potato does exercise with Blade and Q. During lunch they give her a bite-sized portion and then she does sauna. Afterwards when they try to measure her the machine breaks down. The next day she decides to burn down her fat and tells Blade to say her nice words. Full Potato summons her sword and tries fusing with it, more like cooking herself. Potato's friends are also here and Blade tells them to stay patient. As predictable she manages to fuse with Asmodeus and he tells them that this form was last manifested by the first ancestor and she is immune to all physical attacks. Ernest tells him that she wanted to burn down her fat. Asmodeus explains that maintaining this form requires 1 million calories per hour and she is burning her fat fast and loses control as she starts getting hungry, wanting to eat Claire. Blade uses a nerfed down version of his sword and manages to defeat her and she is back to being thick. At night she is fat again and tells them she can get slim with her sword anytime. After an inspection the doctor says he has recovered 30% of his full power, but if he uses it he will die. Claire calls Blade and introduces her friend Maria to him. As always loser remembers her messing up in the battle destroying her. She wants Blade to kill her actually if she loses control, as she is originally not a human but a night demon. She showcases her ears and loses control as a beast lives inside her. After the battle with Q she lost control over her powers and the monster can awaken anytime wreaking havoc. She has nowhere to go if she gets kicked out and she worked hard to enroll here and she is an orphan. The cringe party decides to help her. In the evening they have taken all preparations and set a barrier. Blade tells her to unleash the demon but she is too afraid to use it, so Ernest starts convincing her and Blade and her starts fighting. She starts taking of the weights on her body. Now they are copying Piccolo. After releasing the final item she will be 160 times stronger. She releases an extreme amount of energy and transforms into the Demon King, but Blade thinks something is wrong. Ernest tries to take the spotlight but gets owned, so does the average Leonard. Sophie uses her ultimate strength and holds her down while Q launches a strong attack, but she literally consumes it and beats her instantly. Moving on to Blade, he tries to defeat her without actually killing her, but she is actually serious and pushes him away. Blade tries to injure her with his trash sword and after she launches an attack his sword breaks down. Ernest lends him Asmodeus and Blade decides to use his powers. As he releases it Asmodeus can't hold it in and she manages to block the attack, but her barrier starts breaking down and he releases 30% of his powers defeating her. As a result he faints. After he wakes up the doctor seems way too worried for him and way too close. They seem to have a past. She tells Blade that the others are being treated by Claire and Maria survived. The next day Maria seems to have changed completely and she calls Blade the hero. According to her Maria is another personality. The king knew everything about Maria and her identity. Her mother was a normal human but her father was the Demon King. Maria seems to have made new friends. She is now an ordinary student because of her seal. She shows something and the boys kill themselves. Her new personality is now called Mao. Claire tells them that Maria and Mao are different personalities and she is worried if Maria will ever return. At night Mao is here to meet up with Blade. She says she wants to go on a date with him and takes him for a tour. She calls herself a lady and apparently she stayed here because she is attracted towards Blade. She says Blade is now weaker than her as he can only use 15% of his powers. She is going to stay here because she wants to kill him but for some reason she has become attracted towards him and wants him to become her mate. Maria is inside the deepest corners of her memories and despite being weak she sealed a part of her powers. As a child she saw her mother suffering a lot and they had to live in hiding. After her mother died she doubted her father and if he ever loved her mother and whatnot. Because of these thoughts Mao was born. After a few days Maria's friends Eliza tells them that the sealing stone is not actually a stone but after analyzing it's an item that contains a message and unsealing it would awaken Maria but Mao would end up destroying herself. She weirdly agrees to her and as she unseals it Mao unlocks it and it's a holographic message of her father. He asks his wife for forgiveness after leaving her and considered himself selfish but he had to face the foe. It's actually Blade and he left her because of the safety of his upcoming child and he even set names for his child if it's a boy or a girl and will love her for eternity swearing on their sacred seal. Mao starts crying hearing this and she is fighting Maria in her mind and she is about to be eliminated so they all call her name and she is back losing control of her emotions and Mao is destroyed. The next scene Blade is against Maria when Mao awakens and they are ready to fight. What was all that emotion building for? Basically Maria decided to coexist with her. This concludes the video. A like and a subscribe is appreciated.